2, 1, you're on.
Wrong. Okay. Good afternoon. Welcome to Thurston County Board of County Commissioners Board Work Session. Another for Thursday, February 4th, 2021. Agenda topic is the Open Space Fee in Lieu program. My name is Ty Menser, Chair of the Board of County Commissioners. We have Vice Chair Commissioner Gary Edwards, Commissioner Carolina Mejia, as well as County Manager Amir Chavez, Assistant County Manager Robin Campbell, and a crew from our Public Works Department, including Director Jennifer Walker. For public attendance, you may follow along on the Thurston County YouTube channel or join by calling 360-252-9020, pin 1234. And I will turn to County Manager to set up these briefs for today.
Thank you, Commissioners. You will hear today an item related to an allowance within the Thurston County Code for open space fee in lieu of implementing open space. Just to frame, and you will hear a couple of details from the specific developments, but in gist, what it is when a development, particular development is required to reserve open space as part of their development. And as a result of that, the residents within that development have access to that open space nearby. What this particular program under the code does is allows a developer to pay a fee to the county in lieu of having the open space as part of their development. I have no idea how this program came to the county code, which has presented some issues because we don't have a program up and running to do this. And as you will hear from the staff, we'll give you a perspective. And at the end of that, I will provide my own perspective on that, perhaps my own suggestion. Jennifer.
I'll start. Thank you, County Manager. So we came to the board during the budget session last year when there were lots of different items being discussed. And this was one of the policy level requests that we had asked for, was funding for the development of this program. During that process, the board asked for us to come back and have a conversation at a later date to discuss it. We had been asking for $60,000 from the general fund for a consultant to help develop the program. So we are coming back now and presenting it and having another discussion with the board about this item. And at this point, I will turn it over to Lucy Mills, who's going to do the presentation.
Thank you, Jennifer. I am going to try to share my screen. It doesn't seem like I'm very good at that, so we'll see what happens here. Okay, so today we're here to talk about Lucy Mills, Thurston County Public Works Road Operations Manager. Today we're here to talk about the potential open space fee in lieu program. Thurston, in 2020, staff became aware of a section in County Code 2160-140 concerning planned residential development design standards in the Lacey UGA. Section A5 of the code allows for a cash payment or like value of land area and improvements to the county to fulfill up to 50% of the amount of open space required in the permitting process. The intent of the money collected is then to be purchased equivalent required open space at another location in the county. Development of a fee in lieu program would be complicated. A matrix has to be developed to determine the cash amount needed to fulfill 50% of the open space requirements. This matrix would also have to establish how to determine like value of land and improvements if a developer or citizens wish to donate land. If cash is accepted, a process for collecting and managing the funds would need to be developed. Long-term obligations of donated or purchased properties would also have to be considered concerning the limited amount of park staff. Public Works, especially park staff, does not have the resources to develop this type of program. Currently, the developer of the Manor House plat has requested to use the open space fee in lieu option as listed in county code. Staff could not evaluate this request as there is no program or matrix currently in place. Consultant expertise would need to be evaluate the process as no guidelines have been established to use in the evaluation process. As Jennifer mentioned, a policy level budget request was submitted for $60,000 in general funds for the 2021 budget to develop the program, and the board denied that and requested we bring this item forward for further discussions. And that's it at a high level. Any questions?
Yes.
Go ahead, Commissioner Edwards.
How long have we been hanging fire on this? It's been in the county code for how long, and we've never had a program to deal with this? How long? When was it put in the county code?
I do not know that. It was just brought to our attention last year.
Does anybody know that? I mean, this is kind of an example of where we got a regulation in place, but no way to deal with it. And it sounds to me like we're hanging out there about 100 miles on liability when we tell somebody that wants to move forward, oh, well, we got to develop a plan first, and knowing nothing about it. So I would hope we will do the best we can to alleviate this problem for whomever, because this is another prime example of roadblocks that drive up the cost of housing. And I believe there's an attempt at some affordable housing here that's being thwarted somehow. And I'm not saying that's intentional, I'm just saying it's a bureaucratic process that somehow seems to always get in the way of doing business, so.
Commissioner, I would say that this is actually a provision in the code that gives some flexibility. I do not know how long it's been in there, but it does say that it is at the acceptance of it is at the discretion of the county. So when, as the county manager mentioned, we don't have background as to why it was put in there. It does give discretion for development, but the program needs to be put in place. And that is what we're asking the board if they want to have that happen. And if they do, some funding needs to be allocated in order for us to get that set up.
How long would it take for this? I mean, if we were to approve it, how long would it take for this process to be done and for provisions to be put in place?
We're thinking we could have it done by the end of the year. It's dependent upon the consultant and how long they think it will take. So we'd have negotiations on that, but I'm thinking worst case by the end of the year.
Jennifer, you answered, oh, sorry, Ramiro was next, go ahead.
I found this code was changed in 1996, this portion of the code. And that's what the Muni code, what is telling me. So if I may, I can totally go back, take you back to the conversation when as part of the budget and the request for the $60,000. And I probably verbalize my concerns again today about this particular program. I don't know how this program came to be. And since it was put in place, nobody has put in the county to task to implement this program. That is why we don't have a process in place. But fundamentally, my concerns at that time when I raised to the board, when you were considering the policy level request, for me is shifting the risk. And that's what this program, I believe, does. Shifting the risk from a developer they have the obligation to build open space within their development to the county, paying a fee, and then the county has the obligation and the responsibility to find a piece of land nearby this development to offer the same alternatives for open space. And that is probably the risk that I see is we, the county, is going to get absorbing the risk of purchasing the land, and we, the county, will absorb the risk of maintaining this piece, open space for recreation and long term. And no new news for the commissioners. There is no money in operations for parks. So for me, it's the financial risk that really brings this to the forefront. And I believe that was my perspective when you were, at least Commissioner Edwards and Commissioner Menzer, were assessing the policy level request of this open space.
I have a question in regards to that.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
So I understand the fee part, but how about the, I believe there was a part here that says cash or value of land area. So that means people can, if they have another space of land that's close to the area that they're not planning to develop, doesn't that mean that they can give that land to the county?
Yes, it says cash or like value of land area and improvements.
And then we pay to manage it.
That is correct.
Okay, I guess I've got two letters that are communications to Brett and Josh. That's why I'm kind of curious why Brett and Josh are not here to address this. This kind of looks like one arm of government not coordinating activities with another arm of government. And here, the developer, who is doing his darndest to meet the requirements of density of the Growth Management Act and create affordable housing at the same time, and he looks like he's got a pretty good solution, but I guess I'd have to ask Brett or Josh to see if they agree with this analysis as laid out by this particular developer. And here again, we're ending up in a situation where time is money, and it seems like government doesn't know that. I don't know why, they just don't seem to get it, that time is money. And can somebody give me a reason how come Josh or his operation isn't included in on this discussion?
Yes, we've actually had several conversations and coordination with community planning and economic development, with Josh and with Brett. And the proposal in front of the board today is whether or not you want to have us move forward with developing an open space fee in lieu program. We aren't presenting on the developer side what options they might be submitting as they go through their planning process. And there was just, I was copied on another letter dated January 28th from the developer, where they're actually submitting a different option as opposed to this open fee or donating land. So they're looking at various options, but what we're talking to the board about is if they want this program to be further developed in light of where we are with our ongoing revenue challenges with our parks program for maintenance.
I guess I want to do a follow-up to that then, that the sense I get in reading, I have two letters, one from December 26th and one from January 28th. And it's almost like the developer is realizing he's facing another year delay. He's got a lot of money out on this thing. He's got other issues pending. Now he's finding out he can't move forward, and he's going ahead and presenting another option that would maybe meet the requirements and get us into that density and within the guidelines of growth management, because we're not capable of of completing a transaction that we say we need, and mainly because we don't have a program together. So it looks to me like here we are delaying a very well-intended development again. And I think we're out there in la-la land myself as far as exposing the county to liability whenever because time is money to everybody but government employees. And that's where we're at right now. We're driving up the cost of housing. And with this situation, I think we're hanging out there a mile long.
I have a couple
We've
questions.
got a solution.
So the open space requirement comes from where? Is that county code or the thing that this is a substitute for?
That is correct.
Okay, and Lucy said something about that this only applies to the Lacey UGA.
This provision, this option that's listed here is specifically applicable to the Lacey urban growth area. More details, I'm going to defer to Josh, but this specific provision to be able to do an open space, donate money or land plus improvements is specific to the Lacey urban growth area.
You answered one of my questions about whether or not this was something that if a developer requests it, we have to do. And you said, no, it says acceptance is at the discretion of the county. So there really isn't any, as you say, this is really not a liability for us. It's a potential thing that we could develop to help. It could help developers with projects where they, for whatever reason, don't want to deal with the open space. But Ramiro is talking about the shift of risk and financial resources to us. I don't really understand why it applies only to the Lacey UGA. That seems a little strange to me. If this is such a good and important, approach. But I'm concerned about, if it's not been used and I'm concerned about standing up a program for the Lacey UGA that is going to cost us money and shift risk to us and cost at least $60,000 minimum for a consultant to even develop the parameters, if we've had one request for this, folks don't even, maybe there's been others, but not enough to ever trigger this discussion before. I don't know, it seems a little, this was my hesitation. I'm glad to hear more about this. This was exactly my hesitation during the budget discussion, and hearing this fleshed out gives me something to chew on. I don't know that I'll be able to give direction today. I may want to think about this, but Josh is here. Josh, have you been tracking the conversation, or did you have anything to add in? The Commissioner Edwards is comment about your group's involvement.
So yeah, I have been, thank you, Commissioner. Joshua Cummings, Director of CPED. I have been tracking, but in the time that I was trying to get on this Zoom in response to why isn't Josh here, I might have missed something. Is there a specific question that I could answer? Was it, help me understand what I might have.
Commissioner Edwards, did you have something you wanted to ask Josh?
Well, no, if this is going to be handled by the county, it appeared that we didn't have coordination between Public Works and CPED, I guess. According to these letters that I've got, it sounds like there's a plan that does not require the county to do a lot of maintaining of property if it was given right next to a property owned by Lacey that's already designated to be a park. I don't know how much, Josh, I'm referring to a couple of correspondence that were sent to you by Mr.
Chamberlain.
Yes.
Yeah, Steve Chamberlain.
Yes. And it sounds like he's got a pretty good solution. I just don't want to be in a position to drive the cost up on additional housing units. And if we could come up with something and attach that, I don't know, he's referring to 24 acres or 12 acres, and attach it to a city park already owned by the city of Lacey, and it's in Lacey's growth management area anyway. Why wouldn't we want to just go ahead and accept something like that? Especially if all it took was for us to say, yeah, do it, because I don't want to be in a position of holding anybody up anymore. That's the way I read the second letter, is he's kind of frustrated and trying to be polite. Well, how about if we try this other thing, because you guys don't have a program to do the first proposal? I don't know, just, I can
So,
see.
I haven't seen those correspondence, so
Yeah.
is there a middle course here where we wouldn't have to launch this program, but we could work with the city of Lacey to meet the code under this individual's proposal, or is that a no-go?
So I
So,
spoke,
actually, oh, sorry. Was that,
go ahead, go ahead, go
No,
ahead.
no, Commissioner Mejia, please go ahead. I apologize.
You probably have some more clarity than I do. So go ahead.
Okay, sorry about that. I couldn't tell who was talking there and what was going on. So I think that there was a question about coordination in there first. We are tightly coordinated, CPED and Public Works, on this topic. And this program is exactly as Director Walker described it, as an opportunity for flexibility if the board so chooses. I wasn't at this briefing because this is within Public Works' code, and I work to try and stay in my lane, but I'm here to help, as it were. And those letters that you're referring to, Commissioner Edwards, I have received those, and applicants often have great ideas, and we are working to find some of those paths that meet code and ordinance. And the fee in lieu of was one option, as you're hearing about today. Other options have been land swap, but I would caution, as our prosecuting attorney has in the past, that we not go too far down a path on a permitting issue, specifically related to something that could be coming before the board, if that's helpful. But I also look to the county manager to provide guidance on next steps.
Commissioner Mejia, you had something?
You know, I did speak with Mr. Chamberlain, and he did mention to me that, you know, regards, I guess it would be the land swap. And so Lacey has already agreed that if that were to happen, they would, they could take over the maintenance of that section. So I don't know. I'm like, I think this program would offer a flexibility for the future, but I'm not sure if this can be possibly a test run, see if something like this were to work. You know, and seeing that Mr. Chamberlain has worked very, you know, very hard to work with us and is bringing us options, I don't see why not. We shouldn't work with him.
Agreed, Commissioner. And that leads to Commissioner Mintzer's question, has CPED said no-go? We have said no-go to nothing. We're open to working within our code to find a path forward, as with all applicants.
And what Public Works is saying is that there's no program established to do the evaluation to have this move forward. It would be doing a one-off. And so that's why we were asking for the board's direction on if they want this program to be developed or not, because there isn't a program that's developed at this point in time. There's a sentence in the code that says this is an option, but the how has not been worked through.
And so we're kind of talking about like multiple paths to the same goal for this applicant. So the fee in lieu of is what this meeting was scheduled for the discussion. The land swap conversation in the letter from Steve Chamberlain is another avenue to potentially achieve success. So like I said, we've said no go to nothing, but the land swap, if it meets the intent, I think one of the big pieces there is going to be, as was been discussed, who owns the land, who manages the land, and is the land of like value. that's going to be some of the things that we're going to need to consider, and we're not there yet, but we are under review with this applicant.
I guess my concern is that we try to move this process forward as quickly as possible so that we don't drive up the cost of housing. And
Indeed.
if in fact, Lacey is willing to do as Commissioner Mejia said, why not let's do it? Let's get something going. Let's show that we can work with some of these people instead of delaying these people. That's all I'm asking. It's just frustrating to me to always have delays get in the way, it seems like. And sometimes I guess it's unavoidable, but this doesn't look like it's one of those times.
I would respectfully disagree. We have been continuing to go pretty light speed and with all of our applicants working on a good path forward as quickly as possible. And nothing is ever going to be done in a night, but we continue to work things.
Well, let's see if you can get it in a week then, Josh. It's okay with me. Can't do it in a night, try it in a week, even a month.
So I guess my 2 cents based on what I'm hearing is that I'm not, sounds like all the commissioners are willing to explore this alternative path forward, whether we call it a land swap or whatever it turns out to be. If the city of Lacey is involved and it connects to one of their parks, that seems, and I don't know if the code allows that kind of a avenue, but I'd certainly like to see whether that's possible before I sign off on launching up a big, open space in lieu of program, that applies only to the Lacey UGA and involves a consultant and everything. So I'm not there yet on that, but going as fast as we can to explore this alternative option, sure. That's kind of where I'm at, I think. I don't know about my teammates.
I guess what I would say is that it's not exploring an alternative option, it's implementing a program that hasn't been developed yet, Commissioner. Because what they're asking for is to be able to donate. And then there is improvements probably that may need to be done as well, but it is moving forward and doing a one-off and saying, we're going to try to figure out how to make this work. But it's under the umbrella of the program that's not developed yet. So if the board is given, no.
It's just
Ty?
At least that's my perspective. I don't see it as an alternative. It is.
I'm at a disadvantage. I have a meeting set up with Mr. Chamberlain tomorrow morning. I haven't read these letters. I don't know anything about the alternative proposals. And as Josh said, we probably shouldn't be really going down the path of discussing a possible permit application. So we need to discuss this at a policy level, I think.
I guess.
Which is why we were asking for development of the program to help the board with that.
The nice thing about this is that this development is all done under the guidelines basically laid out by Lacey. I'm not saying it isn't our jurisdiction, but they're following all the growth management, working with Lacey because it's in the urban growth area for Lacey. So I'd like to see it proceed without delay, and then we need to talk about this in lieu of process if we want to develop something or not, if there's an alternative out here that'll work.
Go ahead, Josh.
Oh, no, the county manager goes first, please. He's got his hand up.
I went in first in time, first in right, but okay.
So I have to be right up front with the board. This conversation really brings me a lot of concerns because I believe there is an advocacy to accommodate the wishes of a developer, whomever that is. And that's probably what it is at this point, is Jennifer is saying this is a one-off. We don't have a program as to how we can accommodate this. So is the board really going to get through this process to accommodate the request of a developer, and I really don't care who that is, to accommodate a single request without having ourselves a program that we can make it available to the rest of the developers. And that is really, and this is a public meeting, and I have to cautiously presented this information to the board. You need to pace yourself, commissioners.
Okay, I'd like to follow up on that and say that I don't care who this is either. All I want is to stop always having delays thrown out in front of whoever is doing business in this community and see if we can't expedite the process. And I want to do it for all developers that are developing within the code, following the guidelines. Why not work with them and see if we can't help them along? Because time is money and it drives up the cost, and we'll never have affordable housing if we don't have adequate housing. That's where I'm at.
I have a question for Jennifer or Josh. High level, if a developer did not want to, a developer who didn't want to go through the usual course and wanted to take advantage of this potential program, which is in our code. And one response I would make to Ramiro's point is, we're calling it a one-off, but it's something, it's a provision of our code. So it's not like we're doing something that's not there. We just haven't done it before, but that's neither here nor there. But if a developer wanted to go through the usual course, what would that involve? What is it that they're trying to not have to do? They would ordinarily have a certain amount of acreage or square foot or something that they'd have to purchase and maintain connected to the development. I mean, what exactly is the rule that this is an alternative to? I don't know the open space laws that we have in Thurston County.
So that is a bigger conversation that I would prefer to have my technical experts on the meeting for. But when I had my hand raised a little bit earlier, I appreciate the county manager's comments on this as a specific project, not just the fee in lieu of, but looking at the land swap or any of that, as the values of CPED are transparency, consistency, and accountability. That consistency is really the programmatic part of the conversation. And so whatever we do for this applicant, we want to be able to do for other applicants. And we're under review. Like I said, we're in no-go on any of those items. We're not slowing anything down. And in terms of how a developer uses open space, it all depends on some of the stuff that you've heard of today. It's LID, it's how many houses can go onto a property? Is there oak trees? Is there gophers? All of these decisions are so many pieces that go into one single development that it's not just a simple matter of this one piece of open space. And we can have that conversation in a general way, but I think that it would be better to have some of our land use experts at the table.
Well, I mean, I keep coming back to the Lacey thing, but like the very fact that it applies to Lacey UGA suggests to me that it was probably put in the code to begin with at somebody's specific request. Otherwise, why wouldn't you handle all of your UGAs similarly? Unless Lacey requested it because of their wanting to be consistent with their open space requirements or whatnot. Robin, did you have something?
I was just going to say exactly what you did. We try to align our code for the UGAs with the cities. So it's very possible that this exists in Lacey's code and is aligned to that.
So, I guess one thing we could do is limit if the unique aspect of this proposal, which I haven't read, is that the county wouldn't have to do the maintenance and operation, which is why it might be more attractive than another type of proposal. Perhaps the county considers limiting its program to those situations where there's a maintenance and operation arrangement with, partner jurisdiction or something. I mean, that would create a consistent policy that would be very limited. I don't know, but that would obviously take time to do.
I think that's go ahead, Josh.
No, Jennifer, you're right on.
I think that is exactly why we want to develop a program, so that we can address those specific types of items and have it documented and have consistency. And I think the one-off comment is coming from the fact that there's the ability in the code. It says you can do this. What's not done yet is how. And what is going to be looked at? What are the financial requirements as a part of that? How are we going to do those calculations? What considerations are we going to take into account when doing that, making that determination. And so we will be having to go through all of that with no documented program or guidance if we move forward with doing this for this one account. So that's why, in terms of expediting, that's why the request was made to be able to develop the program so that we would be able to take a look at this and have a program established.
So my concern, I mean, I think, honestly, from what I've seen of the program or just what I've, read about open space and just having this, I think it does take some of the roadblocks off. And it would be something great. It's already in our code, and it would be something great for us to develop. And then, like Jennifer say, maybe put in some guidelines of saying, putting in the maintenance part in there. But my concern is just the year timeline it would take. It's a whole nother year, I think, of delays for, anyone who's interested in this program. But I guess I'll put my position very clearly that, I think we should move forward with funding it and seeing what comes from it.
Robin, did I see a part of a hand?
Yes. I'm curious how many questions we get for this program in any given year, because I can recall one in the last 11 years, other than this one.
I've been here a little over 3, and we've received 1, which is how we knew that this was a part of the code. But I would defer to CPED. If Josh has any additional information, I don't know, but.
I don't at this point. I would have to look into that, but I don't believe it's many. This is the first time I've had this conversation.
So to follow up on that, the one that I recall from maybe 10 years ago, the staff brought the proposal to the board and the board said, no, thank you. And that was the process. And if we're only getting 1 or 2 every 10 years, is it worth $60,000 to develop a program around it? That is my comment.
That's my concern, and I don't know. Again, I'm sorry that my own ignorance about the requirement, but if it's, Lacey urban growth area has had 1 million developments, and somehow everybody else is meeting the requirements. So I would kind of want to know why is this one developer not able to do what apparently everybody else is able to do, because we've only had 1 request for this. What's the rub here? Is it just trying to save money, or, I mean, I don't know the situation, but I have the same concern as Robin, and without a greater context, I'm not prepared to move forward on launching this program in the way that Jennifer has described. I can spend more time looking into it, but I'm not there today.
I guess I'd like to say that I'm with Commissioner Mejia on this as far as moving forward, doing something. To what exactly that means, I don't have the answer to that right now, but it seems like we're always trying to reinvent the wheel. And you can't tell me that there aren't plenty of other jurisdictions that got a pretty much boilerplate process in place to make this happen. And Lacey might very well be one of them that has it all in place and ready to go. It's trying to meet their guidelines from the urban growth area. So I certainly think we're obligated to look into it, but at the same time, accommodate whomever might come forward with trying to solve our housing problem. And that's the way I look at this. These aren't big mansions that are being built out there. These are first-time homeowner homes, it looks like to me, and to help people get their feet on the ground and enjoy the American dream. And it looks like government's kind of in the way of that process. So I'm not advocating for any one individual. I'm advocating for a broad policy that allows us to address our community's needs right now. That's where I'm at.
Well, I think I'm certainly on the same page. And what I'm saying is that we don't have the resources in order to develop it. And so that's what we're asking the board. Are you wanting to have the program developed? And if so, will you fund it? So the 60,000 is an estimate. The developed through the end of the year is an estimate until we speak to a consultant and find out. I would agree. I don't think we're reinventing the wheel. At the same time, we have to remember the staffing that we have for parks and the expertise that we have. So we're developing something on some of these things that we don't know, what we don't know yet. So it has to be put in place
Well,
first.
can anybody tell me, does Lacey have this program in their area? I mean, has anybody even talked to Lacey about this to see, yeah, we've got it all laid out. Here's what you need to do. So I hope you're not going to tell me that's $50,000 just to talk to them and find out and maybe adopt a plan that's already in place somewhere else. That's what I hate to hear from the bureaucrats, because that price just gets transferred right to the home buyer every time.
Ramiro, is there a way that this can be added to the agenda on Tuesday? That way, I mean, I would like, there were some really good points brought up regarding, you know, just being the least UGA that I would like to look into.
Yeah, and in fact, I just made a note that obviously, based on the conversation, you need to put some thought behind this, so I will bring this on Tuesday.
I'm not sure if the rest of my seatmates are okay with that, bringing this issue back on Tuesday to vote on.
Sounds like a solution.
I'd like to, you know. So, okay, I'll ask other questions offline. Robin? Yep.
I'm curious if part of what is being sought is $60,000 for the budget. And if that's the case, then I would just remind the board that we have a budget process and the next opportunity for amendment is in May.
That's exactly what I was going to ask you. That I forgot was we considered this, we didn't fund it. What, you know, it sounds like it goes through budget amendment, and then, you know, from there, whether the program could be lifted up in time to help this particular project, I have no idea, but
Right.
it's obviously something we have to consider.
I would also just make a statement. The board can always decide to do different, but what the instructions for the budget amendments say is that this is not an opportunity to come and ask again for something that the board has denied. So if you want to consider this, that's up to you, but it would be out of sync with what other offices and departments are directed to do.
I just think that's premature for us to even be asking for money at this point in time. I think we need to have more discussion, and somebody go ask Lacey if they've got something going on this. I don't think you need any money to do that. Somebody can make a phone call.
I don't disagree,
so-
Commissioner. I'm just laying out what the budget process is.
That's fine.
Sounds like there's unanimous agreement on providing a little more time and getting a little more information at a minimum. So we're good there. And Ramiro, you can choose the appropriate agenda and time.
Yeah, so it seems to me that perhaps delaying for another week until the 16th may be a good time to get additional information for the board at this level.
Jennifer, anything else you need us to know or you wanted to hear from us about?
No.
Anything else from the board?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Amir, are we good?
We're good, thank you.
Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody from Public Works. Appreciate you.